Hello YouTube and welcome to the first Final Cut Pro Live. Final Cut Pro Help Live. My name is Jared Ewing and I'm going to be your host as we go through some things here in Final Cut. Today's show is going to be all about organization inside of Final Cut Pro 10. I've gotten a lot of questions recently just around organizing files, what's the best way to do it. A lot of people coming over from other editors like Avid or Premiere, or even upgrading from iMovie and just want to know what is actually available inside of Final Cut in terms of organization. So thank you everyone for joining the stream. This is going to be geared more at the beginners of editing with Final Cut Pro 10, but if you are an avid user of it and are considered more advanced on it, hopefully you'll pick up some tips on here. But we're going to start out extremely basic, as you can see on the screen, with an empty, untitled library, as if you've just opened up Final Cut Pro 10 for the first time, and then we'll go into some more details from there. As a technical note, this is the first live stream that we're doing here on the channel, so if there's any issues, definitely go ahead and pop it in the chat. Let me know how we can improve this. This is going to be available for replay on the channel, so if you're watching this in the future as a replay, definitely don't hesitate. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think and any changes that you'd like to see in the future. And if you want to see any specific topics covered, almost every single video that's on this channel is directly in response to someone's question that they've either emailed me, which you can do to finalcutprohelp@me.com. I've gotten a lot of tweets, and through Instagram, I've gotten different followers and questions through there. So at Final Cut Pro Help, you can find me on both of those places. So yeah, that's about it for what I got right now. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll jump in here. I am going to remove my video, so I'm not covering up any of the screen there. And again, just jump into the chat. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's any issues with the video, and we can get that taken care of for you guys. So the first thing in Final Cut Pro 10, one of the big changes is the way that files are actually organized. And when you open up Final Cut for the first time, you're going to see this untitled library. So all of the video you edit with, pictures, music, whatever you're going to use to create your project, it's going to show up inside of this untitled library. And the libraries are very important because everything gets connected to them. You can definitely have multiple libraries. You can just go up to File, New, and create a new library. And then you'll get an option to name this library. So I'm just going to call this snowboarding. So we got some snowboarding clips we're going to work with here. I'm going to put this on the desktop so you can see what this looks like. And when I save this, you'll notice up here on the desktop we have this untitled library, which you can see on the left column here, untitled. And now we have a snowboarding library as well. Both of them look exactly the same. They have some smart collections, and they have an event titled with today's date. So that's what a library is. You can rename libraries either here inside of Final Cut or from the Finder if it's on the desktop or somewhere else. If I update the name on here, we'll just call this one Test. Once Final Cut gets updated, you'll see that name reflects here. And same thing, you can select it here, just click on it, and then put in another name here. So we'll just call this one Apple, and then the Apple shows up on the desktop as well. You can close a library. Since we have two open, we don't necessarily need both of these open, just by going to File and then choosing Close Library. Once a library is closed, you can go up and open it from the Open Library menu, either as a recent library, or you can go back and just choose Other and browse for it. So that's a library. And when you select the library on the left column, you're going to see on the right side, the inspector, we see all the properties for that library. If for any reason you don't see this window, it's just this button up at the top right. You can press that to show it. Or if you've rearranged all these windows somehow, just press Command 0, and that'll give you the default layout of Final Cut Pro 10. I try to do almost every single one of my videos in the defaults, both in the layouts and any other commands that are kind of shipping with Final Cut. That way you don't have to search around for how things look. But if you do customize your keyboard, if you create custom shortcuts, or you have other physical devices connected to your Mac to control it, some of these shortcuts may be different for you. But in my case, Command 0 is the default workspace or window layout. And so that's where we get this layout. But anyway, with a library selected, we're going to select the snowboarding library. On the right side, we have some library properties. A lot of new editors don't use these properties because they're not necessarily something you're going to need early on, but they're good know about that they are there. So if you do need to move some footage around or customize things, you can do that. So the first thing, the biggest things are these storage locations. If you click on this, this lets you change where content is actually going to be stored. On the desktop back here, we have this Apple library and a snowboarding library. So in a minute, I'm going to import some video into the snowboarding library. And when I do that, right now it says to store that media in the library. So it's actually going to copy all of those clips inside of that snowboarding library. I could change this and choose to put it in a different folder. So that's a nice way to be able to manually organize your clips instead of letting Final Cut do it. If you are new to editing video with Final Cut Pro 10 or any advanced editor, I strongly recommend leaving these at the defaults. Then you can get used to it and work with it. And then if you need to manually organize, you can do that later on. If you are more of an advanced editor, definitely don't hesitate. Go in here, change these how you want. You can store all of these different types of files in those different locations. Similar, if you are an advanced editor, you might be editing with content that can take advantage of the wide gamut or HDR video format. And that's what you can change here. I just clicked on the modify button for this library, and this is going to change everything in this library to work with the wide gamut or HDR footage. And this is great if you're using custom LUTs. If you're recording other content that is in HDR, this can then actually take advantage of it, and Final Cut can use this. This is a newer feature, but definitely a great way. All you would do is select this, change it, and then you're all set. This applies to everything in this library. So in a second, we're going to be talking about events, projects, and all these other ways to organize inside of Final Cut. Everything that's in this snowboarding library, if we were to change this to HDR, would also apply to the HDR settings. For those of you newer to editing, keep this standard. You don't have to worry about it at this point. But if you know that the cameras you're working with can support HDR, then switch it over there. And again, that was from the modify button. We saw the modify settings for storage locations. And we can see at the top some basic information about this library, specifically where it's stored, which is on my internal drive right now, so Macintosh HD, and how much space it's taking up. The other things that you can control here in the library properties are the media, motion content, and caches. So with those three, essentially, they're all created automatically, and if you modified where the storage locations are, what Consolidate does is moves those files into the modified locations. So if you wanted to store and import video, let's say this stuff is stored on the desktop and I modified this setting for the storage location, I chose, instead of in the library, I chose the desktop. What that means is then when I drag the snowboarding video into Final Cut, those clips are just going to stay right here on the desktop. And they're not going to get copied into the snowboarding library. So Consolidate would go through and find any of the clips that are outside the library and bring them inside of Final Cut. So those are some of the settings that are in here. There's also the backup databases, so you can see that, and then other content that's used. So those are the library properties. And again, the library is just kind of the top layer of everything that you do for organization with inside of Final Cut Pro 10. Libraries can be deleted just by dragging them to the trash if you don't need them, or you can just drag this to an external hard drive if you wanted to copy it or move it somewhere else. So that's libraries. Again, if you do have any other questions, you can always pop it into the chat, and I'll try to answer those as we go here. All right, so that's libraries, and then moving on to events, because every time you import, some people think that you import directly to the library, and that's what you're select, but you're actually going to select an event for these to go through. So if we hit import media, this is going to bring up our import window, and you'll notice on the right side, there's this option here to add it to an existing event or create a new event in a specific library. So I'm going to import some snowboarding footage here that's a couple of years old, so I can switch this to create a new event in the snowboarding library. and then you can give it a name. So we'll just call this the 2016 trip. And the rest of the stuff here I'm not going to change. That's more for the importing side of it. So if you want to learn more about that, you can definitely look into the importing stuff. So I'm going to select this snowboarding folder that has all these snowboarding clips. And I'm actually going to choose to leave these in place so that they don't copy over. And then I'm going to import those selected clips. Now what's nice about Final Cut Pro 10 is even if it was copying those clips, you can start editing right away without having to wait for those copies to finish. So now you can see on the left side, we have an event called 2016 Trip. So if this snowboarding library was going to have multiple trips, each event could have a name of a different trip. So if I took one trip per year, I could go in here and this could be the 2017 trip and so on. I could keep naming those. Some other scenarios, I know that a lot of people edit wedding videos and other events. So with a wedding, you might have the ceremony and then a reception. Each one of those could be a different event as a way to break up your footage and start to sort things. A lot of new editors just have one library, one event, and then they just put everything into that one event. But think about ways that you might want to split that up because that can be great for organization. So now that we have, actually let me delete this event because I don't actually need this here. So you can do a control click, a right click, or command delete to move this event to the trash. And it'll let you know that any media that's in that event that got imported directly into the 2017 trip event would be deleted, but I have nothing in there, so that's okay. Okay, so now that I've imported the snowboarding footage, it's inside of this 2016 event. Now, this is where your organization really starts, because with this footage, it's 18 clips, so it's not really a lot of clips, but we can see over on the right here that the amount of time that's recorded here is a lot greater. So these clips are actually adding up to multiple minutes and sometimes it could be hours of footage that you have. So let's look at how to rearrange the interface so that you can kind of a little bit more easily browse this event. So the first thing I'm going to do, because we're done looking at the desktop here, I'll come back to that in a second, but I'm going to get up to the corner here, and I'm going to hold Option and hit the green circle there, and that's just going to fill the screen. And it's not actually going to enter the full screen mode that's included inside of macOS, because I think this way of doing it tends to be a little bit easier for people that are newer to the Final Cut Pro 10. I'm going to drag this bottom bar below the canvas and our browser over here. I'm going to drag that down, and I'm going to get rid of the inspector on the right here just by hitting this button at the top right. That's the show or hide inspector. And you can even go in here and resize this window. So we can drag this over to the right to shrink that down. Because we're going to be looking at the video, so we want to still see that viewer over here on the right, but we don't need it to be taking up the entire screen. So don't hesitate to rearrange the interface inside of Final Cut so that it benefits you. And just remember, at any time, you can press Command 0, and that'll rearrange it back to the standard or default layout. So with our videos here, at the top right, there's a couple different ways to view this video. Because it doesn't look that easy to understand what you're actually looking at if you don't know what the video is. So at the top right, next to the little search button, there's this little film strip button. And this changes the way these clips that you're seeing are viewed. And I'm going to start out by dragging this slider all the way to the left. What that does, notice it says all, that just means that the entire clip is now contained inside these little boxes that are here. And as Final Cut kind of catches up and generates the thumbnails, we'll see the little pictures of each of those clips there. So this is all 18 clips that I just import. These are all of them. We don't know how long each of the clips are in this view here because everything inside of these boxes could represent half a second or it could represent an hour. So with this, if we drag it to the right, let's go to 10 minutes here. So notice on the right here, it's 10M or 10 minutes. So what that means is that if a clip only has one box it's going to be less than 10 minutes. For these boxes that have 2, that means this clip is at least 10 minutes long, but less than 20 minutes long. And if I select the clip, this one actually looks like it's a little bit longer. This one's at 22 minutes. So it's not enough to go over and kind of escalate up to the third box that's there. So this one only 1, so it's going to be not going up to 20 minutes there, so it's only at 13. So this is a way to just kind of skim through your clips, and the further we zoom into it, the closer we get. Say I go to 5 minutes or even 2 minutes. Notice that this one clip that was only 2 before is now a lot longer. And this can be tricky to understand, so definitely use it with your own footage and kind of zoom in and zoom out, and that's how you'll start to get familiar with it. I find myself very frequently adjusting this slider to zoom in and zoom out of footage to get a very specific part, and we'll use it a little bit later as well. This slider on the top shrinks them or makes them very larger. So this is just like zooming in and zooming out of all of the clips. It's not actually changing what the length of each of these little blocks are. So I'll make it a little bit bigger to make it easier to see there. The next options here are how they're grouped. So you might have noticed we have footage from 3 days here. We have January 8th, January 9th, and January 10th. And if I hit the little disclosure triangles, it just shrinks them down. And now all you see is the date and the number of clips that are inside that. So this is a great way to quickly shrink things. If you know you're only editing the videos from the 8th, you can just hide the other ones. But you can go up here and group these a different way. So instead of grouping them based on when they were created, maybe you want to do it based on when they're imported, which of course I just imported everything, so it shows everything on today's date. But you can change this to other information here, like the reel, scene, duration, and other essentially metadata that gets applied to these clips. So how does that data actually get applied to clips? That's where the inspector comes in. So I'm going to hit the inspector button up at the top right here, or you can use the shortcut Command 4, and then we're going to select a clip. I'm just going to select this one here. And at the top, there's a couple different inspectors. If you hit the one that shows the little eye in the circle, that's the info inspector. And this gives us all the information about the video clip that's selected. So we're able to look at things like the name, notes if we applied anything, the role, camera name, all this information that's essentially metadata. And there are, I don't know the total number, but I'm sure there's over 100 different fields of information. So at the lower left corner, right now it says basic. You can change this to view different types of data in the inspector. So right now it's set to basic. And for a lot of new editors, that's fine because they don't necessarily go in here and change this information. But if you go through and look at some of these, you're going to get a better understanding of the clip that you're working with. So I'm going to switch this to extended, just an example here. And you notice extended adds the reel, the scene, the take, angle numbers, all this other additional information for this clip. So I could go in here and I could set up a reel name or a scene name or even a take. I could say this is take 1, this is take 2. And then when we go and sort, based on the information, we can sort or group it by, say, that reel name or that scene name, and then I can sort it by other types of information as well. So I could sort it based on the name, the scene name, the take, the duration, based on the information that you're putting in on that clip. So this metadata is very helpful, and don't necessarily use it based on what it sounds like. Like scene name, you're thinking the scene of a movie, but you can use it yourself. Like just put in any name you want there, and then that's how it could be grouped. So I could just call this, we'll just call it scene 1, and now that clip has been put into a little category here just called 1 because it's scene 1. So you can create these custom, almost like custom folders, custom groupings based on that information. And then Final Cut Pro 10 is very nice and allows you to quickly change it. So if I don't want to organize it by scene, I can change it back to the creation date, or I can go back and change it to the scene name. Anytime you can switch this stuff around. So that's one way to organize inside of your Final Cut Pro event is based on how you group it and that metadata information. So that's the group by and sort by, just how you sort the information there. You can also adjust what you're viewing inside of your event. So if you want to see the waveforms, the audio waveforms, check that box, and then it's going to go and generate those audio waveforms. At the top left, while it's doing this, if you hit the background tasks button, you can see how it is going through and generating that information. So always check this background tasks button if you're unsure of what's happening. That's a really good way to check it. And then the other part is continuous playback. So this just means that it's going to continue playing from one clip to the next instead of stopping at the end of this clip. So if I go into this one here, let me zoom into it. I'm going to go up and change this. We'll go down to 5 seconds. So that means this little block at the end is about 5 seconds. And if I play it, you'll see it plays that clip. And since continuous playback is not turned on, it just stops at the end of that clip. If we wanted it to keep going, check the box, go through here, play it, and then it's going to go through and jump to the next clip. So if you're just reviewing a whole bunch of footage, that's a really quick way to do it by having continuous playback turned on. I'm going to zoom back out and go back to 30 minutes here. And that is the view options that are here. The next, everything we've done so far has been in this film strip view, which is showing them the actual little film strip. But if you hit this button, it's going to switch from that film strip view to a list view. And this is especially helpful when you're just logging tons of clips and you're just trying to view more of the data from the clip versus the clip itself. And we'll see some other tricks about this in a second too. But notice on the left here, we just have each of the clips. And then when you select a clip, the entire clip shows up here at the top. So you're just scrubbing through to see the entire clip. You can rename any of these clips just by clicking on the name. Click it, click again, it'll go and load the name so you can type in what you want to call each of these clips. So if I knew that these were different runs, I could name it just run 1, run 2, and so on as I'm going down through the list here. Those names then, when you have them applied to a clip, if we switch back over to the film strip view here, you can see those names come along with them. So that's kind of this list view. And if we're looking at a clip, let's look at this one here. So this one we can see we're going up on the ski lift, mostly ski lift. We get off the lift, sitting down for a while, and then we start our run. So I would say probably right from when we start here, I'll click and drag across it. And we can see we're going down the run, struggling a little bit, relaxing. Let's say before we start relaxing here. So we're going to go right about here. I like all of this part of the clip, and I'm going to reuse it. So I'm going to mark this as a favorite. And all you have to do is press the F key on the keyboard for favorite, and that marks it as such. At the top, you'll notice this little green bar going across the clip. There's also a blue bar here, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the green part lets us know part of the clip has been marked as a favorite. I can do the same thing with the reverse. So if this part's sitting down, I know I'm not going to want, I can go and select it. And actually all of that is pretty short, just that little part. So to reject part of a clip, with it selected, I just hit the delete key on the keyboard. And what you'll notice, a couple things happen. One, this jumped around to the top, but then on the left here, we now have 2 run 1s. And the reason for that is there's the first part, then there's a little chunk deleted, and then there's a second part after that chunk. However, I can go up here and say, instead of hide rejected, I'm going to just show all clips. So now we can see that little part has the little red above it to show what's rejected. This is a really cool feature inside of Final Cut Pro 10 because you can just click this and choose exactly what you want to see. I can see all the parts that were rejected, or that, in this case, that one little part that was marked in red. Or I can go in here and say, I just want to see the favorite clips, which in this case is just that one little part of that clip. Or like I was doing before, I can go up and just say, show me everything. Show me all clips. When you are seeing all clips, especially since run is all one piece, if you hit the disclosure triangle, you can now see the different parts to this clip. So this clip, the entire thing is marked with the keyboard snowboarding, because that's the folder that was imported from. It got applied automatically during import. Then we can see the part that's marked as a favorite and the part that's marked as rejected. Now, one really cool feature is you can go in and actually rename these favorite chunks. So this part, we could call it, we'll call it the actual run, because this is when we're actually going down. And this rejected part, we were just sitting. I'm just going to call it sitting. So these names then are a great way to basically break up this one clip and name just the portions that you want. These things then are selectable as well. So if we have a project on here, I'm just going to call this our test project. I could just click and drag the run, and it's just dragging and bringing down that favorite section, which was about, what is that, about 8 minutes. It's just bringing down that 8-minute chunk. So that's one way to go in and use the browser and just use these couple little buttons in the browser to sort and navigate between different clips and clips that you've actually marked either as favorites or rejected in that case. All right. So just to summarize so far, we looked at libraries and how to use the inspector to modify the libraries. We looked at how to create and delete an event. One other thing I forgot to say is you can merge events. You just drag one right on top of another one, and it'll merge those two events together. Great way to consolidate over time. If you decide you didn't organize the correct way, you can switch it up at any time. We looked at how to go through and view our events in different ways. So by adjusting the size of the waveforms and the clips, you can do that there. We looked at both the film strip view and then the list view, ways to mark a clip as a favorite, a rejected portion, and then how to rename and sort by those. So a lot of stuff on here, but as you start naming and putting more information in there, you might actually find it limiting because you can mark it as favorite and rejected and that's it. Well, there's actually a really cool feature which is keywords. And if you've never used keywords, essentially it's the same thing that we just did with favorite and rejected, except you can put any word you want. So just go up to the window menu. Sorry, not the window menu. Let me find it here. We're going to bring up the keyword editor. So it's under the mark menu. Mark, show keyword editor. And the keyword editor, I always like to turn on the shortcuts here because you can just start typing in a keyword if you wanted to. But I know that this entire run has both myself and my roommate in it, and I can just put our names in here. So I'm going to put my name as a keyword, and then we'll put her name as a keyword. So these keywords can be applied to the entire clip. And since I added it as shortcuts, I can just do Control-1 and Control-2. And then you'll see we get these little keyword parts letting us know we've marked those sections as with our keywords. So this is a great way to go through and start adding additional information. A lot of people will do indoor versus outdoor. They'll put in different cars if they're recording a race and editing a race. A lot of different things you can do with the keywords there. And then by using this list view, you can just go in and select the keyword you want and then drag down just that portion. Or you can go through and start using smart collections. So the first ones you'll see up here are these built-in smart collections, or what's called a library smart collection. These collections search through the entire library. So if we have 5 or 6 different events or more, these smart collections will search all of them for you. And you can just say, I want to see the favorites from every single one of my events. Or I want to see all of the projects that are in the events. And it'll show you just that type of clip. So definitely use those as a way to find things throughout your projects if you're just searching. Those are great tools. I use the project one very frequently. But then inside of an event, you'll see if we hit the little triangle on the left, it'll show us the keywords we've created. So I can go through and just see all of the ones that have my keyword attached to them, or any of the ones that are snowboarding, which should be all of those clips. So that's another way to go through and search and use keywords as finding things. But then if you go up to the top here, under new, there's a couple things we can create here. One is a keyword collection, and then there's a smart collection, and then there's a folder. So a folder can basically contain multiple keywords. So I could put, say, actually let me remove snowboarding. let's say I just wanted to have people inside of a folder. I can do that here, and then I'll just call this people. So another way to sort and break that up. Not really too much to it, just basic folder organization. So that's folders, and then keyword collections are a way to create a new keyword. So I can just call this something new and then drag footage into it. So let's say I want to have some footage of what's when we're on the lift. I can go through and find clips. Let's see, I know run 1 had parts on a lift. So this whole section here up till we get off the lift, say right about there. I'm hitting O to mark the out point to select that portion. And then I'm going to drag this over to the lift keyword. And that applied lift keyword to that portion that I dragged over there. So that's another way. By going up to File, New, and then Keyword Collection, you can create that keyword and then just drag clips onto it to apply the keyword. Then you have a Smart Collection. So the Smart Collection is a little bit different, and I'm just double-clicking on the little gear basically on this collection. And a Smart Collection is another way to sort through all of your footage inside of Final Cut. You can just say that I want to mark all of the following or any of the following conditions. So you can go through here and put in different conditions. So if I know that some of the footage here was shot, let's say in January of 2016, I can say the content created date is, let's say before, and we'll do before, we'll just say 2017. Obviously, you can go through here and put any conditions that you want here. And actually, I know based on the dates here, let's say before the 9th, just to make this a little bit more realistic. So just by doing that, notice now we're just seeing the clips not created on the 9th, but before. So we're seeing all the ones from the 8th created. I could then go through and add that I also want it to have a keyword, and we can have it include, let's just do my clips. So now, because it says all, it means I'm seeing just clips that were created before the 9th and include me. If I change this to any, then it means either or of these. So we're both seeing the keywords that are me and the created before date. So these are ways to create smart collections and then how you actually set them up. So that's another way to sort through footage. And especially if you can think of this, if you have a lot of clips, this is a very quick way to do that. So those are the new menu. And essentially, we've kind of looked at a couple different things here. We looked at creating a library, which was the snowboarding library. And you can always go through here and create a new one. We then have the event, which was our trip. And then the project itself, we created that test project, but we're not actually editing anything right now. So, but this is where you go to actually create a project. But one thing to note about creating a project is all projects are connected to a specific event. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're creating a project, is that it's going to go to a specific event that you've created. All right, and then we looked at folders, keyword collections, and smart collections. And then one thing to note about compound clips and also multicam clips. I want to show you something because these are important to know about, because there's an option when you go into a library. You can go up here under, did they move it on me? I think they did. There's an option here to duplicate our stuff. So let me go up here and get it. And if you don't use this, this is actually something I do a lot. The help menu, if you start typing in something, it'll actually show you menu items. So you can just drag up and it'll go and point out exactly where those menu items are. These ones they do have under edit. Okay. So with a project created, there's an option, and I'm not going to go through the time right now to create it, but there's an option here for duplicate and then duplicate project as snapshot. And that's the specific one I want to call out. Because if you have a multicam clip or a compound clip, when you duplicate a project, because again, those clips are stored inside an event. So if you duplicate the project, it's going to ask what you want to do with those compound clips and also the multicam clips. And if you duplicate them as a snapshot, so instead of just a normal duplicate, but duplicate it as a snapshot, it'll actually copy those multicam clips so that they're not connected anymore. If you don't do that, if you just choose duplicate and you're using one of those multicam clips, if you edit it on one project, it's also going to edit and make changes on the other one. So if you want to know more about that, just message me or send me an email and we can go into that part of it. Let me look at my list here. Yeah, there's two other things I want to cover here that are just kind of ways of organizing and sorting. And the first one is markers. So if you're on a clip and you just press the M key, that creates a marker. See this little purple triangle at the top. I'm going to do another one here. Only this time, instead of just pressing M once, I'm going to press M again, because that brings up the options to edit this marker. And I can change the name of it, or I can change the type of a marker. So what's kind of cool is you have standard markers, which is basically just what you think of when you see a marker. It's just, here's a mark and that's it. But then you have these options to make it a to-do item. And to-do items are either incomplete, which are red, or if you've completed them, they'll show green. So these are great ways to go through and mark clips that you know you need to do something with them, whether it be maybe you're adding a voiceover, maybe you need to color correct it. You can go through and create these to-do items, name them, and then you'll be able to see those, and those can be used in your smart collection. So you could create a smart collection just includes to-do items, or just includes markers with a specific title on them. So those are markers, and if we take this clip and drag it down onto the project here, markers go with the clip. So notice after marking it inside the library, I'm able to stay organized because those markers move with the clip. So you don't have to worry about dragging things one place or another and losing markers. It all stays together, which is really nice. So those are markers. I don't think I had anything else that I wanted to say about those. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about these colored lines, because we know that the green line means that it's a favorite. Red is rejected. Blue means that there's been a basically a manually applied keyword to the clip. In this case, the entire clip was marked as snowboarding when we imported that clip. But then there's another kind of keyword that you'll see, which is a purple one. And if you see a purple line, that's an analyzed or analyst keyword, which basically means that the system did something to find something inside the clip, whether it be a person or the type of shot it is. When you're importing video, and bring the import window up, there's this option here to analyze and fix clips. And if you do analyze, you can say find people in it, consolidate it. Basically, it'll go through and try to fix and find things about your clip and create keyword collections based on that. So if you see the purple line, that's what that means. And then the last one that you might see is an orange line, and that usually shows up at the bottom of a clip. And that'll happen when the clip is being used inside of the current project that's open. So this is something that we should see a couple orange lines here because these parts are used, and you might have this as well. You have to actually turn it on. So just go to the View menu, go to Browser, and then you see this option, and there's Used Media Ranges. I really like this one, especially if you're new to editing or have a project that's really large. It can be hard to know when you've actually used a specific part of a clip. So just turn on Used Media Ranges. And now when we're looking at a clip and we have a project open, it'll show us based on this orange line. Let's switch over and see if it does it here. It might still be processing things. I know up here it's trying to generate things, so it might still be working on that. Let's hide the waveforms. We don't need that. And then let me make sure it actually, yeah, it did do it. It should show us that orange clip. Final Cut might be, yeah, that's okay. It's probably really struggling here with the live streaming and Final Cut. But normally you'll see a little orange line show up at the bottom of the clip, and that'll let you know that, hey, you've already used that clip, so you don't have to go through and use it again. So those are the different colored lines that you'll see on clips. So the last thing I wanted to say on here, because that's really the meat and potatoes of organizing inside of Final Cut Pro 10. And I went through a lot of stuff, so if you have any questions, definitely don't hesitate, let me know. But I'm going to switch back over here. I'm going to hit Command-0 to go back to the default layout. And I wanted to show a couple problems that come up when people are working with footage. So the first thing, you'll remember that when I imported the snowboarding video, I told it to leave it in place. So that means that it didn't copy all of those files into the library, the snowboarding library, and they're still in this folder here. So if I go in, and I'm going to move this folder into my documents folder. I decided I don't want all this stuff on the desktop, so I'm just going to move it to documents. Everything's fine, right? So if I go back to Final Cut, we'll see if it's being, I think it's being too smart with us here because it's figuring out where that stuff is. So I'm going to go through and make it a little bit more difficult. Let's see if it does it then. It really doesn't want to put these offline. Okay. Well, then we're just going to do it this way. So I'm going to move it to the trash. Okay. So this is what you'll see every once in a while, which is a missing file, or basically your media is offline. And all Final Cut is a little database software. It's just linking up all these things that you see to the files that are outside of Final Cut. So if you see this, if you see missing files, it may be time to panic, but hopefully, like in this case, I moved that whole thing to the trash. Hopefully you haven't jumped too far and ruined everything. So if you know what you've done, you can go through and undo what you did and move everything back so that it reconnects the footage, which you can see it's going through and doing automatically there. Or let me just move one of these clips out. Just do two of those. It's so funny. I rehearsed all of this, and of course now it just doesn't want to do it. So I'll just move it back to the trash. So the other thing that you'll see, if you go up to with the library selected, at the bottom here, yeah, it's not even doing that there. We'll go up to File, and there's this option here to relink the files. And this is essentially reconnecting them. So if you moved them and you know where you moved them, go in here, choose Relink. We're only seeing the missing files, which is fine. And then you can say Locate All. And then you just navigate to where that clip is, and then you can choose it, and it'll reconnect it, and everything will be back online for you. So that's when you see that missing file, media offline, that's what those things mean. So very easy to reconnect everything as long as you have that footage. So this is going to be the final point I want to bring up during this live stream. Make sure you have a backup, because everything is fixable as long as there's a copy of this footage somewhere. But if I just moved all those things to the trash and I emptied the trash and I don't have a backup anywhere, that footage is pretty much gone. There's no other copy anywhere unless there's a backup. So please back up your content. It's very easy to do. Final Cut does it for you by creating automatic backups. And I believe there's an option for it. They might have removed this. I think this is one of the things I was looking at before. There used to be a way to customize the time of it, but I think they've completely removed it, and it just does it automatically for you. And if you were looking earlier, when we went into this option to open library, there's an option to open it up from the backup. And this will actually let you restore from a specific date and time. So we've been doing this live stream for a little over an hour here, or about an hour. So you can see that there are different backups from different times throughout the point of editing. So this is a great way to say, I want to restore from this specific time, and I can say open. And you don't have to be too worried because the current version, the current library is untouched. If I close snowboarding, you see that one's still there. If I resize this, we have a snowboarding from the exact time that was created, which is at 620 or 1800, so that's why it's showing that time there. So that's one way to restore from a backup. And then the other way is if you have a system-wide backup, like using Time Machine, that's another way to restore your files. Either way, though, I mean, that's one of the biggest things, create a backup, because you can do pretty much anything you want to a project and completely mess it up. As long as you have a backup, you can go back, no problem, get everything ready to go. And at this point, storage solutions, external hard drives, everything is fairly inexpensive. I got an 8 terabyte USB drive that I use as a backup drive, and I think I got it for just over $100. And honestly, to be able to back up that much footage at that cost is amazing. You can go back just a couple of years and you couldn't get anything that size. So definitely do it. Create those backups. That way we can consolidate, and if anything goes completely wrong, no big deal. You can restore everything back to where it was. So that's what I have for organizing inside of Final Cut Pro 10. I hope someone out there at least found this somewhat useful, and you'll be able to learn a little bit more about Final Cut based on this. I do want to do more live streams if they're helpful to you. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. I'll give a couple minutes here just to go through and answer any of those if those come through. I'm going to review here, but I think I got everything that I wanted to put out there. One thing, if you follow Final Cut Pro Help on Instagram, I've been doing a daily shortcut where I just post a 10-second video every single day with some Final Cut Pro 10 shortcut. And I'm trying to go through every single one that I can find. Hopefully there'll be videos to go for at least the next couple of months. But that's one way to really speed up the way you organize inside of Final Cut. You can actually use shortcuts to go through entire clips, especially if you're using that list view. You can just start marking up clips, go to the next one, mark up the next one. And that's a really good way to get quick with moving around inside of Final Cut. So don't hesitate to go up to the menu bar here, and you can do that and be able to see different ways of marking things. So if you're in with a clip, we can see all the shortcuts here on the right, I, O, X to set a range. Our favorites, unmarked and unrated, are all there. So don't hesitate to go in here, learn those shortcuts. You don't want to be going up the menu for every little thing. You want to speed up the way that your workflow is, and Final Cut is designed to kind of take itself out of the mix and let you be creative. So if something seems really weird and convoluted, chances are there's either a shortcut to make it easier, or there's some other process that will make it easier that you just don't want to do it the way you're doing there. So those kind of things too, just send me an email or comment somewhere so I can find it, and hopefully I can get the answer for you. So I hope you, oh yeah, that's one of the things. If you have the search here, there's this little button on the right that goes up to let you filter. So you can do kind of an advanced search. And that's how you create those library smart collections. But you see a lot of it is just adding that metadata. Once the metadata is added, then you can go through and search it. So I don't see any questions coming through the chat, which is totally fine. And this is definitely the first of these streams, so I didn't advertise too much on this on purpose because didn't know how well or crazy it was going to get. But this has been a little course, just an organization, and I hope you found it helpful. A couple other resources. I did start doing a monthly newsletter. You can find it on the website, which is anawesomeguide.com. That's the primary website for all this stuff. So if you're following on social media, great. If you want to find other stuff, you can go to anawesomeguide.com, and you'll be able to find tips, tricks, all kinds of other good stuff on that site. And I'm just adding more as things go. So let me put this up here. Let's see, where are you? Title. There it is. Too big. Let's shrink it down. All right, so there it is. anawesomeguide.com. That's got everything. And then at Final Cut Pro Help here on YouTube. But you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook with all that good stuff. All right, no more questions. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. And if you're watching in the future, whatever time of day it is, make sure you're having a good time. Stay happy and healthy. And please submit any comments below what you think, or email me, get a hold of me. Just send me your questions or topics of what you want to see in the future, and we'll be able to go through and get those out there for you. And finally, the last thing, I am on Fiverr. If you want to hire me to do an actual one-on-one session, I can get in onto your computer. We can do screen sharing, and I can take you through all this stuff and teach you in a lot more detail specific to you. So don't hesitate. I'm around. And again, you guys have a wonderful night. Thanks so much.